Okay, so the first thing I do in the morning is I get everything set up. I get all my materials out. I light my candles because I like my candles during this. And then I bless the tea, the drink I'm going to be consuming this morning. From the waters to the earth, from the fires to the air. Sacred Mother, bless this water. As I consume it, I consume our bond. Then I start off my journal. And because I'm tracking everything, this is week 3, day 1. As far as the astrology, if you have not watched the videos over on my YouTube to know what I'm doing, I have 2 videos that I put out yesterday. It lays it all out. I am only looking at one part of the ecliptic for this astrology for this 6 month. And right now, Mars is still conjunct with Antares. And the sun does not arrive into the Weaver constellation until tomorrow. It's right on the edge of it, but it doesn't officially enter until tomorrow, so it's not at play yet. Okay, now it's Fates dice. Rolling the Fates dice to give me direction for today. $17. Lesson and learn. 5. Money. 5. The ruler. 3. The black. And this is about the past. A lesson about the past. Kind of seems to be fitting considering where our society is right now, and this conversation back and forth between capitalism and socialism, and just nobody's surviving right now. And then we're going to read our illumination for the week, and this centers the week. We are part of a whole, each unique in what we contribute, but only in our unity can we reach our fullest potential. The human world is broken and damaged. We are fractured under the conditioning of those who seek to rule. We are divided by that which makes us unique, seeing them as weaknesses, as other, instead of the strengths they are. Unity demands diversity, for only within diversity, the unique parts together in wholeness, can the potential of human be fully realized. Can the potential of humanity be fully realized? Each of us holding one piece to the puzzle, one string of the tapestry that will show us the truths that we seek. It will not be found in one or just by one, but through a community of many, each carrying their own vision, their own experiences, their own contributions. It will not be revealed by just one voice, but through many, speaking in different ways so people can receive and understand from many perspectives. In the wholeness, at the core of all of them, we will all understand. This is the gift of the Lady of the Bones. Through her bones, we are all connected. Now I'm going to spend just a little time contemplating that. So her illumination from the book is something that will carry throughout the entire week, and that I'll keep reflecting back on. There is a contemplation, again, from her book, and the one randomly chosen today was number 10. This is something else as I move through my day, thinking about the illumination and how this connects. So, contemplation number 10. Do not fear my form, but see the reflection of me within yourself. You are from me, thus a part of me. I have it written down in my journal. I will reread it probably again once I'm done. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say her Unity Rosary. I won't record that part. It's long. It takes about 30 minutes. And I have examples of it, but I will post on YouTube all the wording and stuff in case anybody else wants to do the Unity Rosary or do this journey. I'll also post it as a post on Patreon, a free one, so everybody can see it if you want to go there and have a written. So it gives a snapshot of the beginning part. So, I bless my tea. I roll the fates dice. I get my message. I read my illumination. I read the contemplation. These are things I'm going to be thinking about throughout the day and thinking on. I also know where my astrology is. So it's still that primal energy in the heart. We're moving from intuition. We're moving from feeling. I'll do the rosary and then I'll sit for a little while. And like I said, I'll just keep updating throughout the day and stuff as things come, as I'm reflecting on stuff, if anything comes through, any messages. And then this evening is where we get into conversation. Have a great one. So when I was saying the Mother's Rosary this morning as part of my routine, I started thinking about something. There are 3 reasons why we pray. And, some people, they're like, oh, the word prayer. Here's the thing, pagans do it, animists do it in some form or fashion. I think the majority of anybody that has a belief system does it. We do it in different ways and have, our own rhythm to it, but it's still prayer. So most people think about it from a devotional aspect. It's just devotion. It's us, giving and moving with whatever guide, divine, deity that we're talking about. But that's only one part of what prayer does. If you have a good prayer and you pay attention to the words and stuff, part of that are lessons. There are lessons, things to incorporate within ourselves, things to understand more deeply. It's within the words that we're speaking. And here's the one part of prayer that I don't think most people really think about, but it rewires your brain. So when you are speaking words out loud and repetitively, it is triggering and doing new connections within your brain to connect to the ideas and the aspects within the words. It's just biology. I mean, if you've studied the brain and how all this works for a really long time, you understand, this is just what happens. This is how we train our brain. It's how we rewire our brain. It's how we're continually making new connections in our brain. When we speak our prayers out loud, this is where that really comes into play. I mean, you can say it in your head, but when you talk in your head, it is not as powerful because you have a lot of crap that goes through your head all the time and your brain doesn't really, hold on to it, pay attention to it, keep it as something important. When we speak, we are creating outward vibration through the mechanism of our voice, but we are also telling our brain that this is important. We're speaking this out loud. We are putting this out there. Thus, it's important. I grew up in a Catholic household and a Catholic school and stuff. I'm not Catholic, if anybody is wondering. But I grew up in that environment, and I remember having to memorize all the prayers and stuff, and then it became mechanical. You don't even really pay attention to what you're saying and stuff. You're just kind of going through the motions and repeating. And maybe that's just me because it wasn't my religion and I didn't believe in things that they believed in. But anyway, it was still something that we were speaking out loud, and it was still something that we were wiring our brain with. The words we choose for our prayers, whether we're creating them and writing them or whether we're using somebody else's, it's really important to think about what it is we're saying. What is the context? What is the meaning behind what is being said? Because you're ultimately training your brain and wiring your brain in that way. And so as I'm going through and I'm doing her Unity rosary, the first part, so the first 3 beads of it, the first prayers that are said, really are talking about, her aspects in her 3 colors, her white, her black, and her red. Talking about, the pieces that are her. And since November is her black month, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things in her black to kind of show you this context. So in her black, her first prayer, the setting prayer, it's Lady of the Bones, Mother of the Black. And it talks about your cloak shields those that call to you. She's the protector. If you call on her, that's what she does. Your scales tip in the favor of those who seek justice with love and need in their heart. Again, not vengeance. We're talking justice and talking about how, she will help and, help create pathways for the people that actually have true need. You hold the world in your hands, for you are the web of its creation. She is the beginning and end of everything. She is the web itself that connects us, that energy. Thus, she is the one moving the strings. That's why she can create pathways for us, because she can move those strings, create the pathway, and then we just have to walk it. I really want to get into the decade aspect, though, because this really kind of shows what I'm talking about when we're talking about prayer that is not just, praising and devotion, but that is for us. It is our movements and changes within that devotion, within that bond between us. So in her decade beads, give me the strength to embrace my shadows and transmute them into the instruments of my victories. It's a lesson talking about, our ability to take our weaknesses or take the things, the parts of us that we may not particularly like, and how to transmute them to be something for us, something positive, something to help us, instead of them being this negative thing within us. Give me the courage to stand strong in the storms that threaten to consume me. She walks with me. And because she walks with me, that gives me a little bit more courage, doing it even though I may be afraid of it, because I'm not alone in it. Show me compassion as I show compassion for others. It's not just give me compassion. It's not just show me compassion. It's show me compassion reflective of the compassion I am showing to others in my life and in my world. Show me how to destroy for the purpose of new creation and peaceful lives. Not destruction for destruction, not violence for violence, but a destruction in order for a new creation to emerge, in order to create peace and harmony within our lives. Her prayers aren't prayers of bow down and worship, and she doesn't care about that. And any of your guides really shouldn't care about that. If your guide is so hell-bent on worship and not the lessons within that, then either A, maybe you are perceiving this wrong and you are putting that label upon them and thus that movement, or maybe it's not a good guide, a good deity to be working with. Just my opinion. But in my experience, our guides are there to walk with us, to help us, to give us lessons. And that's what's in her rosary. It's all about lessons. So when I'm saying this, I'm reframing and rewiring in my brain, thinking about that, giving me the strength to embrace my shadows, my dark sides, my weaknesses, and finding ways to transmute them into the instruments of my victories, to use them in positive ways for myself, and the path I am walking. There's all kinds of ways to look at that. I just wanted to note this because think about the prayers that you're saying. What are they giving you? What are they giving the bond? And how are they changing you? What are you possibly rewiring your mind and your brain for? What are you incorporating into yourself? Are you just kind of static going through motions and saying prayers that other people have given you? Or are you really, looking deep into the meanings of those lines and what that means to you and how you move within that? Just something to think about. Week 3, day 2 of the Weaver's Journey. So this morning, the sun is entering the constellation of the Weaver. Mars is still hanging out there near Antares. That primal energy, primal emotions, actions and needs are starting to come in, where the sun is entering with it. So that's a lot of physical world. And the Fates dice this morning, Flow, Presence, Ruler, and Pink. When rereading her illumination, a phrase stuck out. We are fractured under the conditioning of those who seek to rule. So today was about rulership of presence. Tomorrow or yesterday was rulership of money and how that works. And yesterday being about money, there were all kinds of things that happened throughout the day that were about how money is currently working in our system, how they're using it to control what is currently happening with it, the restructuring of it. And that's from both a societal people. So people looking at money different, how they're spending money, how they're going to spend money, especially through holidays. It's been a big topic all over social media and in general conversations. And they are doing restructuring of it. I mean, history, if you look at history and you see how this works, go back to the 1930s. It's all happened before. It's happening again. They're talking about, gold standard and Bitcoin, and there's all kinds of things out there that are going on with a restructuring of our money to, because when you have impossible debt, that's what happens. And that's what countries are dealing with, is impossible debt. And so today, the ruler talks about flow of presence as the sun's energies entering the Weaver. And this is the things that, came in messages as I was working through this morning, just doing my morning routine that I showed yesterday. The society is set to keep us focused on what we lack, not what we have. To keep us focused on what is ahead or what is already past, but not the moment we are in. Fear and guilt that keeps us from seeing and being in the wonderment of the moment right now. And it's how they control what feeds their system, what feeds our social algorithms. My life is not perfect. I am facing many physical challenges today. But in this moment, I have all I need. In this moment, there is peace and comfort. Each challenge will come in its time, and I will stand to meet it when it does, but I will not allow the impending thoughts of it to drown out the present moment. it has me at a point of reflection, of being present in the present, of that moment, because they do. We're always thinking ahead, what's coming next, how to prepare for what's coming next, what to do about what's coming next, worrying about what's coming next, all these things. And then you have all the mistakes of the past, the guilt of the past, the missteps, the, whatever, that's already behind us. We're not changing those things. So constantly being focused on what's behind, which is already past and you're not changing, or what's ahead, which is all possibilities and a lot of different scenarios that they could go. Really trying to stay focused in the present, meet the challenges as they come. And when we're in the moment with the challenge, and that doesn't mean not, preparing, not thinking about, what you should do in those moments, but not allowing them to be consuming, not allowing them to be the primary focus of the present. And I kind of feel this might be a good lesson, a good thought process for a lot of people right now. I also wanted to do a quick touch on yesterday. So reflection from yesterday and the journey really was focusing in back to week 1. And because each of these weeks are building upon each other, just because week 1's over doesn't mean that those lessons are gone. It doesn't mean that that focus is gone. It shifts with each of these. It grows. It flows one into the other. And this difference of exchange, this different way of being in bond with the Divine Mother, and that change of exchange, not from the back and forth exchange, but just being in companionship. And yesterday was my sister's chat, my coven chat, and one of my sisters, she's going through a very similar devotional movement, and her mother, at the moment is Hathor. That's who she's working with. And when she was talking about her, I saw all the resonance of the way that I see the Divine Mother. I mean, it was just all there, that life, that death, that rebirth, and all the spaces in between, all of that, what is encompasses. And we were both talking about, what that feels like for us to be in that kind of connection and bond, and what's coming for us. What are the things that we are talking about? And when I was talking about companionship, that really, really resonated with her, that shifting of movement from thinking about, how we begin bonds and how I began bonds, of that exchange, that movement back and forth, getting to know each other, getting to trust each other. But it really, really moving into this place and thought of just companionship is the point of the bond now, and what that means and how that feels. It's really more about feeling than anything. But it was a great conversation, and I love that, she's got the confidence right now to be creating her own. She's creating her own rune set, and, with Hathor, and her personal journey in that rune set, and bringing in more information, bringing in more direction for her. She created her own rosary, as far as the prayers and stuff that fit where she is and what that connection looks like. And, she's doing that personalization of everything. She got ideas and, some examples for me, but she's taking that and
really personalizing, making her own, creating for her own bond, creating for where she is. And that's what I always hope all of my students and the people that I connect with, that that's where they go to create their own, based upon their own bond, based upon their own path, where they're going. That's what we're supposed to do, because that's where the power is. The power is in our own bond, our own movement, our own path. We may be similar, but we're different people too. We have different perspectives. We have different ways of movement. We're in different lessons. We're in different magical space. Similar, sure, but still us, personal. So yeah, just sharing some of that today. I'm sure I'll be sharing more later. Have a great one. So far in the Weaver's journey, each week is kind of shaped up with a big lesson and a change, a movement, a growth through that. So the first week, was all about changing the exchange of the bond, how I saw that, my perspective, moving to a place of companionship, love, and hope. Heavy emphasis and thought on being in companionship. The second week, talking about my soul senses, my presence, what I am open to. So being open in mind and heart, being observant, being present in my present. Through that process, the moon was going through the Weaver, at least through part of it, and heavily felt moon kind of energy, and it was a new moon. So for me, that's new beginnings, new starts, new perspective. So we're 3 days into this week, and the interesting change has been the sun moving into the Weaver. So it's very much physical world, this societal kind of world. And the first day was talking about, who ruled the money, what was ruling the money. The second day was who rules the flow of presence, what is ruling the flow of presence. And today is seeing the migration of money. So for me, it's kind of seeing how our society works from that kind of collective and movement, and what is the primary control mechanisms being used, how they're being used, and who's using them. From that perspective and thinking about it, the church's religion is the mechanism that conditions people to follow, the government, the human societal structures that govern over us. And it's true. I mean, you follow the money and you see what's happening. And it's interesting. It's one of the big indicators of, why something's happening, why there are changes, what is going on, and who's really behind it. Follow the money. It's always been that way in our society. But from a devotional aspect, so we're talking devotion, that's what this journey is about. And this was the message from this morning. The reflection of the goddess is everywhere. We all have our own forms of the mother, our own names. I live in a Western society that has been deeply influenced by Christianity, but from the Gnostics to the Catholics, the mother, the goddess, still lived in lesser form, in thought, but also in great devotion and reverence in different ways, especially by the women. It is the mother that has been drawing, Protestants to the Catholic Church. I've been watching it online. It's crazy. Yet they're still not seeing her. They see a reflection, a small sliver of her, but they're not seeing her. And I got a message way back when I first began, and the Morgan told me this, that everything is backwards. I was watching the movie Conclave last night when I was working. Had it on in the background, and something that I thought about, and some of this goes back to Gnostic texts about the Gospel of Mary, and that she was supposed to be the one leading the church until Peter had his misogynist moment and, cut women down into the church, as below and, underneath them. But what if everything was flipped? What if the women were the ones that led the church? What if the women, women pope, women bishops, women priests, and the men were in that opposite position of the doing, going out and doing the works and doing the teaching from a, like nuns, they're teachers, they're nurses, they do the physical work. So what if that was flipped? What would that look like? Could you imagine what our world, because in Western society, heavily influenced by the church in everything, in our structure, it is deeply within our, laws and things, and people don't think about it, but really is. And it started, with the rise of the Catholic Church and how they moved, and then the rise of the Protestants and how they moved. You can see these influences, even if they're not direct, they are the underlying movement. And so what would it look like? How different would our world be if it had gone the other way? If it had gone the way that the Gnostic text talked about and stuff, how that would have changed what our society looks like today, how we interact with each other, and just basic things. I mean, thinking about from everything that you hear, especially in this Christian nationalist movement and this far right Christian movement, and I'm not even sure why they keep calling themselves Christians, because it doesn't really feel that way. But what if they actually live by the, taking care of each other, the compassion, neighbor to neighbor, the serve the sick, serve the poor, these kinds of aspects. So it's interesting. It's interesting. Anyway, so this week really seems to be about seeing societal structures, physical structures, really looking at that and what has been, but also what could be. So these last 3 days have been, I think, reflections of what has been. And I'm thinking maybe the next 3 days are going to be reflections of possibilities that could be. I won't know until I get into it. It's just a thought from this morning. Yeah, I'll keep going and I'll keep updating.
Week 3, day 4 of the Weaver's Journey. So this is some of my contemplation from this morning. The first 3 days was about the system of money and rulership. I was thinking literal, not reflection, yet without the literal, I may not have seen the reflection this morning. In our society, living life, money is the central force because our very survival in this life has been tied to it. Food, clothing, water, shelter, our health, every basic need is tied to money. This is a journey of soul, of spirit, of devotion and companionship. That devotion needs to hold the same scale of importance in my spiritual as money holds in my physical. The lifeblood of my bond and the companionship with the Divine Mother, soul to soul. So, today's day 4, so I'm changing my contemplation for the next 3 days that goes along with the illumination from the beginning. Today's contemplation is contemplation number 4. Let your intuition guide you and be mindful who you are allowing to shape your reality. We walk in the ebb and flow of cycles that create turning points, opening more paths to choose from. Our stories tell valuable lessons. Our commitments and devotions tell the story of our heart. Our heart tells the story of our lives. So, week 3, day 5, the Fates dice was Flow of the Tower, the healer. So, the healer aspect of Tower. And I started noticing a interesting pattern in this journey. The first 3 days are like lessons, changes of perspective, looking at something from physical, societal world, outside, or past. And then the second 3 days are like the incorporation, the change within me, the transformation of that, and how I'm moving and shaping with it. So very much a learning and then living kind of an aspect. So the contemplation, the thoughts and messages for day 5. In day 2, it was flow, presence, and ruler. And something that really stood out to me in her illumination, we are fractured under the conditionings of those who seek to rule. Society traps, trying to keep us focused on what we lack, what is missing, what is wrong. Flow and presence is about being in the moment, focusing on what we have, what is right. The thought of today, in this moment, everything is okay. Ups and downs, good and bad, all come and go. We're always in some state of change if we are moving and in action. Every action produces a reaction. Moving too fast to think of the consequences swiftly turns to something else. We spend too much time weighing potential consequences instead of following the heart and knowing. Moving too swiftly and only following the heart can leave a trail of destruction in your wake. There needs to be a balance of thought and emotion, contemplation, and decisive action. There will always be consequences, blessings and curses that will be born and you will carry, no matter how you move or choose. So, knowledge is from our past. It kind of dictates the moment action. But if we're constantly dwelling on all the possibilities of what ifs, then we don't move. Gather and be in all of your power, knowing it is dangerous, that it can destroy everything around you, but can also create new life from it. Make your choice swiftly, but for purpose, and own all that comes from it. So that's owning all the good and bad. Some choices will be for freedom, some for unity, all brewing together, for this is the experience of life. The flow of the tower is destruction and healing, a duality of life, of growth, the death, and the rebirth. The consequences of inaction are the biggest regrets, because even in failures, at least we know we tried. Know your roles, your skills, your power, and your path. Know your weaknesses and your strengths, and how to use and move with each to your advantage. Then move swiftly. Make your choices based in that, and weave your life with ease. Mastery of the self leads to mastery of your life. This is journey. And then it kind of brought me back thinking some reflections on her four tools. So the Divine Mother's 4 tools, her rosary, her waters, the candle, and her elements cross. And then her 4 mysteries, the world, the scales, her scythe, her bones. So I kind of spent the day just rereading those in her book and thinking about them from this kind of context. I have the foundations and the knowledge, and how am I moving with it in my life? What am I doing? How are they playing different roles, and what are the roles I'm allowing them to play? Week 3, day 6. From the Fates dice. Search, love, knower, yellow. So the color yellow, it's very physical, mind kind of aspect. Knower is that combination of what I have learned through journey that has become, my truth, my experience. And the search for love aspect. What it ended up being was today is a day of celebration. There's a major shift happening. And like I said, I'm kind of seeing a pattern with how this journey is going week to week. So each week is feeding into each other, sure. But the week itself kind of divides itself up into two sides. 3 days in the beginning, 3 days in the end. 3 days in the beginning is, really that aspect of, seeing something, learning something, not from a new, but from like new perspective, new depth of what that looks like, and that incorporation process through that. And then the last 3 days is really bringing it out into the living. What am I doing with it? How am I moving with it? How am I changing myself with this new perspective? And so there wasn't a lot to do, but I did get a candle spell. So that's what we're going to do on Saturday. We're going to do the candle spell in the celebration and do the wrap-up contemplation, and all that'll be on YouTube. But yeah, this is a really amazing journey so far. And the more I go, the more I'm seeing, the more that's changing. And it's not really, she's right, it's not new, because none of this information's really new, but the perspectives, some shifts in it are new. And it's the depth. We're definitely doing depth. And all of it comes back to the very first lesson of week 1, that change in perspective of exchange in the bond, and then back to companionship, being in companionship, because that is the depth. At the surface, we're in exchange of lessons and doing the work, feeding the bond and strengthening it with energy, strengthening with presence, strengthening with thought and concentration of that bond. But then there becomes a point where that bond is solid, it is strong, and we move to depth, which is companionship, a different kind of movement, a different kind of feeling, a different kind of feeding. So this is my reflection of week 3. The week started out with focusing on the constructs that rulers use to control the people. Money being the primary in today's society because they have tied it to our basic survival. Food, water, shelter, clothing, basic needs of life that require money to obtain. Lack of money creates fear. Fear creates desperation and choices that one may not have made otherwise. Governments shape and control the money, its value, how much people receive, how a society works because of it. Governments are shaped by corporations. The corporations control the government through money. Money gives government power. These two entities, though, needed a third leg, something to stabilize their pyramid of power, to force people to willingly follow it, to stay docile and conform to the controls. This is where the church comes in and why it has been a primary force behind Western societies. Eastern societies have theirs too, just differently arranged. But they use religion to get the people to accept the control mechanisms in a way to see their suffering as righteous, divine, and a reward in death awaits for them. As long as the people believe this, they will suffer in silence and not rise against the system. I believe this is why we are seeing the rise of Christian nationalism now. More and more people falling away from the religious controls creates loss of control over the people for governments and corporations. If the people rise together, their power control fails. Spirituality, though, was never meant to be used for societal control. Religion isn't the core for rules, for morals. That comes from being human and seeing the connections between us. Spirituality is for our growth as people, individuals, and then collectively. Soul and body working in balanced alignment to experience this world of matter. For the soul to experience individuality and connection with all the energies around us. At the core of the religion, those ideas are there, but the hierarchy of the religions twists them for the control aspects, for power, for money, for the rulers. None of this information is new for me. I have seen it most of my life, and one reason why I rejected all of that when I went on my own journey of discovery, my own spiritual path. The point of this week wasn't about rehashing their system or something new to see there. It was about the perspective of importance. In society, money holds the highest value for us because our very survival depends on it. Food and water, the most basic needs of the body to survive. We focus on it, prioritize it, work, and give all of our energy and thought to it because our fears are tied to it. What happens if we don't have it? My spiritual life, my bonds, my path, hold great importance to me. They are central in my life because of what I've experienced through them and how I've grown and changed for the better because of them. I know many people who look at their own spiritual work and connections as something they make time for. They fit it in. And when things get hard, money is tight, work is a lot, relationships are a lot, and so forth, the first thing to go is their spiritual and magical practice. I'll admit I find this odd, since in my opinion, that's the times when you need it the most. With all that being said, going back to the first week of the journey, the key perspective change was moving the idea of exchange to a place of companionship. Not what we give each other, but just the desire and want to be in each other's company and energy. Week 2 was rooting myself into that, remaining open, observant, and present in the moment, every moment. Be present in the presence of companionship with the Divine Mother and with my soul. This third week is about holding that with the same importance and need that money holds in our physical life. To see the bond of companionship like food, water, shelter, clothing, safety for the soul, for my wholeness, the basic essence of survival of the soul. Because it is. As I'm traveling through this journey, doing this, the way that they have structured it, the way they've set it up, I'm seeing a pattern. So the first 3 days are giving me lessons, changes of perspective, and it's not new stuff. It's changes of perspective. It's something, it's a depth of it. And so not linear growth, but deep growth. And then the second 3 days is really that incorporation, bringing it to life, bringing it into living. And each week is building upon each other. So it's always going back and reflecting on the previous weeks. How are they connecting? How are they aligning? How is this a building upon? So yeah, we're in 3 weeks. I'm about to do the candle spell that I spoke about. And this candle spell isn't for need. It's not physical need. It's not, something to do in my physical life or anything like that. This is really just about that companionship. It's that celebratory movement because it's supposed to be about celebration. It's supposed to be about connection and depth. So, yeah, let's get to it. So I'm going to explain a few things about it, and then I'm just going to do it. So I made these oils back in September. In the temple, we were doing a monthly project, and it was going to be creating one oil. Mine ended up in 4. If you want to learn more about that, I've got stuff up on Patreon about that. You can find the link inside my website to the Patreon, and I think there's an article there, and it's all in the temple. I explained it to my temple people. And so, transmutation, this is, earth, so very much the chaos, all the different connections, all the movements, and then also soul, all the different parts of my soul, all the different lives of my soul, bringing them into unity together and creating the Copper Witch. So that is me in wholeness. That is soul and body, myself and the Divine Mother together. It's all the pieces wrapped into one. It's that wholeness. So I'm going to use all 4 of these to anoint my candle. And then, because this is just about celebrating bond, it's just about celebrating that companionship of connection and moving in that way, I'm going to be saying her decade prayers. So the prayer of her white, the prayer of her black, the prayer of her red. The lessons that are in each of those prayers, the movement of each one of those, that when we say them, it's keeping that in mind, what that looks like from bond, what she's giving, what we're giving, what we're doing. For me, again, I've wrote about this on Pathos, it's in the Patreon and all that, but this particular, the way that I see candles, the wick is the Divine Mother. It is the path she is creating through energy. It is the path she is creating within fates. And the wax is that movement, that physical outward, movement of that, what that looks like. And how it grows and becomes into the physical through the act of the burning. Fire of my soul transmutation. Earth of my body. All the pieces of me. Air of my mind, bringing them all into alignment and perfect balance and harmony. The Mother and I in wholeness. From the waters of the Mother to the earth of her creation, from the fires of my soul to the air of my actions, may we always be in unity. Lady of the Bones, Sacred Mother of Creation, shelter me in your cloak. Heal my wounds that I may heal others. Give me the courage and strength to know your ancient wisdom, to feel and move within the knowing, to unlock the power of your mysteries, to transform through love and hope. Divine Mother, I hold our sacred bond within my heart and within my actions. Let your light shine through me to guide the way forward. Let your presence be felt and let your love be known. Lady of the Bones, Sacred Mother of Transformation, Give me the strength to embrace my shadows and transmute them into the instruments of my victories. Give me the courage to stand strong in the storm that threatens to consume me. Show me compassion as I show compassion for others. Show me how to destroy for the purpose of new creation and peaceful lives. Divine Mother, may I live in your reflection, in movement and voice, to create alignment, the hand of your justice and the heart of your forgiveness. Divine Mother, I stand fearless in the strength of your power, for it is the abundance all around me. Intuition, passion, and deep emotion is the natural pulse and flow of self-mastery. Loyalty, justice, and sacrifice creates harmony between us. Harmony creates unity. Unity breaks the old by creating new. From the waters to the earth, from the fires to the air, Divine Mother, hear my prayers, feel my love, and stand with me. So I'm just going to sit here for a little bit, just being in that energy and space with her. I'm going to allow the candle to burn until it's done. And I'm going to spend today, since it's Saturday, we don't start a new week until tomorrow, just being in that space, being in that contemplation, being in that movement. And then tonight I'll probably have conversation, just conversation. See what she wants to say, see what she wants to tell me, or maybe a story. Who knows? I'll tell you about it later. Have a great one.